The Man in Black, the shocking truth. Johnny Cash took to his grave. What if everything you thought you knew about one of America's greatest legends was built on a lie? Johnny Cash spent decades crafting an image, the outlaw, the rebel, the Cherokee warrior poet. But when his daughter stepped onto a television soundstage years after his death, a DNA test would shatter the carefully constructed mythology of the Man in Black. And that revelation? It was just the beginning of the secrets this icon kept hidden. The boy who wasn't supposed to exist. Let's rewind to 1932, Kingsland, Arkansas. A child enters the world during the depths of the Great Depression, and his parents can't even agree on what to call him. His mother wants John. His father insists on Ray. The compromise? J.R. Cash. Literally, just 2 letters. No name, just initials. It's almost prophetic, isn't it? Even from birth, this boy's identity was uncertain, unfinished, waiting to be written. He was the 4th of 7 children, stuck right in the middle. Not the oldest, not the baby, just there. The Cash family was dirt poor, the kind of poverty that grinds you down generation after generation. But then something extraordinary happened. President Franklin D. Roosevelt launched a radical experiment, and in 1935, the Cash family became part of it. They packed everything they owned and moved to Dyess, Arkansas to start fresh as part of a New Deal farming colony. Picture this, an entire family, from the youngest to the oldest, working under the brutal Arkansas sun in cotton fields, their backs aching, their hands raw. But here's what made them different, they sang. While other families worked in silence or complained, the Cashes turned those cotton fields into concert halls. Young Johnny's voice rising above the others, already showing hints of that deep, haunting tone that would one day captivate millions. The day everything changed. But paradise, even a poor family's version of it, never lasts. One ordinary day in those fields, Johnny's older brother Jack made a decision that would haunt the Cash family forever. Jack had an accident with a table saw. The details are gruesome. The blade nearly cut him in half. For 7 agonizing days, the family watched him suffer. And then, Jack was gone. Now, here's what you need to understand. Jack wasn't just Johnny's brother. He was his anchor, his best friend, his North Star. When Jack died, something broke inside young Johnny Cash. And what did he turn to? The only thing that made sense in a senseless world: music. But not just any music. Gospel. The songs of salvation, of heaven, of seeing Jack again someday. His mother taught him guitar. A family friend showed him chords. And by the time he was 12 years old, Johnny Cash was writing his own songs, pouring his grief onto paper, transforming pain into poetry. The roller rink. That changed everything. Fast forward to the 1950s. America is entering another war. Korea, this time. And Johnny Cash, now a young man searching for purpose, signs up immediately. He ends up in the Air Force, stationed in West Germany. But before he ships out, something happens that will alter the entire trajectory of his life. He goes to a roller skating rink. Stay with me here. Because at this roller rink, he meets a young woman named Vivian Liberto. Dark-haired, beautiful, with Sicilian and African-American heritage. They fall hard and fast, the way young people do when one of them is about to go to war. They write letters across the ocean. And when Johnny returns to America, they don't wait. They get married. Now Johnny has a wife, but he has no idea what to do with his life. Music is just a dream, right? Dreams don't pay bills. So he and Vivian move to Memphis, Tennessee, and Johnny gets a soul-crushing job selling appliances door to door. Can you imagine? The future Man in Black trying to convince housewives they need a new refrigerator? The audition that almost never happened. But Johnny can't stop the music. On the side, he's playing with local musicians. And finally, he works up the courage to do something terrifying. He walks into Sun Records. You've heard of Sun Records, right? This is where legends are born. And Johnny Cash walks in, guitar in hand, knees probably shaking, and he starts his audition. Gospel songs. That's what he plays. Beautiful, holy, pure gospel music. And Sam Phillips, the founder of Sun Records, the man who discovered Elvis Presley, stops him. According to legend, Phillips looked at this nervous young man and said something that would change music history. Come back when you've done some sinning. Think about that for a moment. Go do some sinning. What kind of advice is that? But Phillips knew something Cash didn't yet understand. People don't want perfection. They want truth. They want grit. So Johnny goes away. He thinks. He writes. And when he comes back to Sun Records, he's transformed his sound into something raw, something real rockabilly, with that deep voice that sounds like it's been dragged across gravel. By 1955, he records Hey Porter and Cry, Cry, Cry. And they're hits. Not massive, but enough. Enough to keep him in the game. The day 4, legends walked into a room. Here's where the story gets absolutely wild. Picture this. It's 1956. Johnny Cash is hanging around Sun Records, still trying to figure out if he's really going to make it in this business. He's in the recording studio with Carl Perkins and Jerry Lee Lewis, just jamming, having fun. And then, the door opens. Elvis Presley walks in. Just walks in. Unannounced. And Sam Phillips, that genius, has the presence of mind to hit record. The 4 of them, Cash, Presley, Perkins, and Lewis, start singing together, trading verses, harmonizing, having the time of their lives. None of them know it, but decades later, this recording will be released as the $1 Million Quartet. It's musical lightning in a bottle. But here's the cruel irony. Johnny Cash, standing in that room with 3 future superstars, still doesn't have a major hit. He's close, so close he can taste it. And the pressure is building. He has a wife, he's trying to build a career. And then, in 1956, he writes 5 simple words that will define his entire career. I Walk the Line, the song that meant everything and nothing. I Walk the Line explodes onto both the country and pop charts. It's a song about being faithful, about being a good husband, about staying true. Beautiful sentiment, right? Except Johnny Cash is already lying. Even as Americans are buying the record, playing it in their homes, believing in the man behind the voice, Johnny Cash is having an affair. Her name is June Carter, and she's about to become the great love of his life and possibly his greatest weakness. Now, June wasn't just anyone. She came from the legendary Carter family, country music royalty, and she and Johnny had a mutual friend who kept pushing them together, Elvis Presley. June later said that when she toured with Elvis, he would drag her to cafes and make her listen to Johnny Cash songs on jukeboxes. Elvis was basically playing matchmaker for one of the most complicated love affairs in music history. When June and Johnny finally met backstage at the Grand Ole Opry in 1956, June said she felt like she already knew him. They were magnetically drawn to each other. But, and this is crucial, they were both married. So they put their feelings on hold. They were noble. They were restrained. The affair that no one saw coming, until they weren't. But here's where this story takes a turn that's almost too shocking to believe. When June finally got divorced from her first husband, she didn't run to Johnny. She married someone else entirely. Was she rejecting him? Playing hard to get? We may never know. But what we do know is this. Johnny Cash wasn't sitting around waiting. According to rumors that surfaced years later, Johnny was consistently unfaithful during his tours. And the most shocking betrayal of all? While he was married to Vivian and pursuing June, he was also having an affair with June's sister, Anita. Let that sink in. He's married to one woman, publicly flirting with another, and secretly sleeping with that woman's sister. The audacity is almost breathtaking. The song that set everything on fire. By 1958, Johnny and Vivian had moved to Southern California and had a daughter, Rosanne. Johnny's fame is growing, but so are his demons. He's drinking heavily. He moves to Nashville and starts running with Waylon Jennings, and the two of them discover amphetamines, pills, that help them stay awake for days during tours. But the drugs make Johnny paranoid, unpredictable, dangerous to be around. And then, right in the middle of this chaos, he releases Ring of Fire. It becomes his signature song, his masterpiece. But there's a mystery wrapped around this song that's never been fully solved. Who really wrote Ring of Fire? One story says June Carter wrote it about her burning passion for Johnny. Johnny's wife Vivian tells a completely different story. She says Johnny wrote it while fishing with Merle Kilgore, and he only gave June co-writing credit because she needed the money. When asked about her inspiration, June would say she found the phrase in Elizabethan poetry, but Vivian scoffed at this, claiming the song wasn't about poetry at all. It was about a very intimate part of a woman's body. And then, years later, co-writer Merle Kilgore took the song's meaning in the most bizarre direction imaginable. When Ring of Fire became a massive hit, Kilgore wanted to squeeze every penny out of it. His brilliant idea? Licensed the song to a hemorrhoid cream company for their advertisements. Ring of Fire for hemorrhoid cream. Fortunately, June's lawyers shut that down immediately. The fire that consumed everything. But if you think the meaning of Ring of Fire is confusing, wait until you hear about the time Johnny Cash literally started a ring of fire. In June 1965, Cash went camping with his nephew Damon in Los Padres National Forest. Somehow, and stories differ on the details, their camper caught fire. And those flames didn't just stay contained. They spread. Fast. The result? A massive forest fire that consumed several hundred acres of pristine national forest. When authorities finally extinguished the blaze, they had some very pointed questions for Johnny Cash. His explanation? A spark from the camper must have caused it. Just an accident. Could happen to anyone. Except his nephew told a different story. Damon said Johnny had lit a fire to stay warm and, because he was high on pills, didn't notice it was spreading out of control. The authorities sued, and Johnny Cash eventually settled for a staggering $882,000. But the campfire story gets even worse. Because of the fire, many of California's endangered condors abandoned the area. When confronted about this environmental catastrophe, an angry Cash reportedly said, "I don't care about those buzzards." Not exactly the response that wins you friends in the conservation community. The outlaw who never was. This brings us to one of the most carefully constructed myths in music history. Johnny Cash, the outlaw, the man who did hard time, the convict who sang for convicts because he understood their pain. It was all a lie, sure. Cash did concerts at San Quentin and Folsom prisons. He recorded albums there. He sang songs about prison life with such conviction that Life magazine wrote he sounded like someone who has grown up believing he's one of the people that these songs are about. The public assumed he'd done serious time behind bars. The truth? Johnny Cash had never spent more than a single night in jail, ever. His brushes with the law were almost comically tame. Once, he got arrested for trespassing on private property. His crime? Picking flowers. Another time in El Paso, Texas, authorities suspected he was smuggling heavy narcotics from Mexico. What did they find? Prescription amphetamines. He got a slap on the wrist. But that El Paso incident had a terrifying consequence. Cash's mugshot appeared in newspapers, and next to him was his wife Vivian with her dark complexion. White supremacists saw what they believed was an interracial marriage and sent death threats. The man in black was courting danger he never anticipated. Yet another overnight jail stay came after a 1967 car accident when police found pills in his car. Instead of charging him, the sheriff gave him a stern lecture. Cash later claimed this was his wake-up call, the moment he decided to change forever. He was lying about that too. The woman who saved him, maybe. By this point, Johnny and Vivian had separated, and just as she'd always suspected, he immediately pursued June Carter. But June was nobody's fool. She refused to date him while he was using pills. So June and most of her family moved into Johnny's estate. They were going to force him to get clean whether he liked it or not. It worked, sort of. Johnny emerged, cleaned up enough to propose to June on stage in London, Ontario. She said yes. They married a week later in Kentucky. Fairy tale ending. Right? Wrong. Johnny hadn't actually quit pills. He was just better at hiding it. This continued until 1970, 2 years into his marriage with June, when the birth of his son, John Carter Cash, finally gave him the motivation to quit. Again. But here's the most shocking part. Remember that affair with June's sister, Anita? While June was pregnant with their son, Johnny went back to Anita's door. The affair continued. Some people called him an outlaw, but maybe the better word is something else entirely. The show must go on. Despite all this chaos, in 1969, ABC television came calling with an offer. Host your own variety show. They promised artistic freedom, but there was a catch. ABC wanted big Hollywood names, people Johnny frankly didn't respect. He agreed to Bob Hope and Peggy Lee, but when it came to censorship, Johnny was ready to fight. When singer-songwriter Chris Christopherson appeared as a guest, ABC had a problem with one word in his song Sunday Morning Coming Down. The word was stoned. The network demanded it be changed. Cash refused. It was one of the few battles where his outlaw reputation actually matched his actions. His daughter Rosanne appeared on the show, but she harbored resentment about all the years her father spent on the road instead of with her. Thankfully, they eventually repaired their relationship, just in time. As it turned out, the final secret. Johnny Cash's sobriety was a revolving door. By 1977, he was back on amphetamines. He checked into the Betty Ford Clinic, got clean, and stayed that way until 1989 when he relapsed again. This pattern continued until his final days. On September 12, 2003, just 4 months after June died, Johnny Cash succumbed to complications from diabetes. The man in black was gone. But even death couldn't keep all his secrets buried. Remember how Johnny always claimed Cherokee ancestry? How he'd spoken up for Native American rights back in the 50s? When it wasn't popular in country music? Years after his death, his daughter Rosanne appeared on the television show Finding Your Roots. They did DNA testing. 0 Native American markers. None. Johnny Cash had no Cherokee blood at all. The identity he'd claimed his entire life, the heritage he'd been so proud of, was fiction. What Rosanne did discover was African ancestry in her distant past, the very heritage white supremacists had threatened to kill her father over decades earlier. The last laugh. There's one final twist to this story. Remember when Johnny spent a night in jail for picking flowers? In 2007, the town of Starkville, Mississippi, where this happened, decided to do something unprecedented. They held the Johnny Cash Flower Picking Festival to commemorate his misdemeanor and officially pardon him. So, in the end, Johnny Cash received a pardon for the one crime he actually committed while never serving time for all the things he pretended to have done. What do we make of Johnny Cash now? Was he a fraud? A genius? A tortured artist? A serial adulterer who happened to have an incredible voice? Maybe he was all of these things. Maybe the man in black wore that color because he was trying to hide in plain sight, presenting a carefully crafted image while the messy, complicated, very human truth lurked just beneath the surface. He walked the line, all right the line between truth and fiction, between the man he was and the legend he wanted to become. And somehow, despite everything, the music still resonates. Because maybe what Johnny Cash understood better than anyone is that we're all walking that same line, all trying to be better than we are, all carrying secrets we hope no one discovers. The man in black is gone, but the mystery of who he really was remains, buried somewhere between the lies he told and the truths he sang.